You can see inside Olson Auditorium about 3,500 officers have gathered from across the region and even outside of Washington. And there are spillover rooms because about 5,000 people have gathered at PLU to watch and be part of this memorial service.
Lieutenant Getz, as we get underway here, kind of set the stage as to what we're going to see.
So right now, what you're hearing is adjutant's call. That is bringing all the honor guards into position to greet the family. We've set up a cordon of honor in the center aisle so that the family can be escorted into their seats.
It's quite a large family that we're talking about too. We know that he has 3 young boys, but lots of cousins and siblings. I mean, there's a large family that we're talking about gathered.
It is, and so we take our time. We allow the family to take as much time as they need to get into the venue and to be seated. And as you can see, everybody's risen. Everybody has their hand over their heart, and they're honoring the family as they make their entry into the venue.
We've talked.
Sir, the colors form. Permission to advance the colors. Advance the colors. Telegram. Did. Who? Over. Mark. Mark time. Mark. Ready? Halt. Telegram. Left. Feet. Honor guard. Uniformed personnel. Prefect. Hood.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true North strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Telegram. Right. Face. Forward. Mark.
Will the audience please be seated? Mountain detachment.
As we're watching the memorial service for McCartney, Deputy McCartney, we are joined by Lieutenant Robert Getz from the Everett Police Department, who's also with the Behind the Badge Foundation, who's here to just tell us what we are watching and the significance of this symbolism. So tell us what is happening right now.
So up next in the ceremony will be the posting of the streamer for Deputy McCartney. That's symbolic of all fallen law enforcement officers. The streamer itself is placed typically on the department flag, which is posted very prominently within the agency's headquarters.
This is his detachment now that's filing onto the stage.
Correct, and that's usually who does the posting of the streamer, or his detachment or the crew that he or she worked with.
Mountain Detachment from Pierce County.
Yeah. So we're going to see a blend of tradition and also some lighter moments, I would guess, as we've seen in the past. It sort of blends a traditional funeral with a
Very personal touch.
Yeah, very personal touch. That's important, isn't it? We're going to see probably, I think, 6 scheduled speakers.
That's right, and the memorial services are generally broken down into 3 sections. The opening ceremonial part that we're observing now will move into the speakers, or the memorial portion of the memorial, and then finally closing, which is also very ceremonial nature.
You said you were not surprised at all to see that Olson Auditorium is packed with officers and their spouses, family members.
Not at all. It's all of us are touched when there is a fallen officer, and we all want to give back.
So this is the streamer?
It is. And you'll note it being posted alongside the other streamers for the fallen deputies from Pierce County.
So those are the men and women who worked with Deputy McCartney day in and day out. Hard to imagine being in their shoes on a day like this.
This is a very, very tough day for them.
Some of you at home might be wondering why we have not shown the family. They've asked for privacy. They have 3 young boys, 4, 6, and 9, and we want to honor that for the family members. They've been married for 13 years, his wife Sierra and Deputy McCartney, and their 3 little boys. They're just so small, and they've asked for privacy from the very beginning of this tragedy, and we're going to honor that through this service as well.
Lieutenant Getz, you've served as the liaison, the person appointed to serve these families in times like this. What's the biggest thing that they need during this time? What's the biggest thing that you have provided these families?
Well, there's a number of things, but I would say there's really two. Knowing that there's somebody there, I think, is probably the most important thing from an emotional perspective. Someone to lean on, someone to ask questions of. And the second is exactly that, someone to provide answers, somebody to who can fulfill their requests and let them know what to expect over the next week. The honor guards will all retreat from the venue, and then we'll get into the memorial portion of the service where we'll have our speakers.
As we've seen other memorial services, what's happening right now at the Pierce County Sheriff's Office? Do other agencies fill in and patrol, or what happens?
They do. Last night at about 9 o'clock, agencies from around the Tri-County area, Pierce, King, and Snohomish County, along with other agencies, I'm sure, from further south, all have volunteered to take the shifts of the deputies who've been working since 9 last night and will continue through until tomorrow morning.
It was just so interesting reading the obituary that was in the Tribune about Daniel, from his family, about how even as a child he had this desire to seek justice, how he was a Boy Scout, enlisted in the Navy. In 2002 was stationed aboard the Abraham Lincoln for years. He served in Hoquiam as a police officer before he was here at Pierce County. A life of service, wanting to serve his community as a police officer, and then very, very involved in his community at Yelm as a CrossFit instructor, just beloved in his community.
I would like to call
So
Daniel Gardner
it's not a
to the
surprise
stage, please.
that all of these people would gather to
Daniel
honor
Gardner
him.
is Deputy Daniel McCartney's brother-in-law, and he'll be doing our invocation today.